Hi, I'm Dr. Andrea Goeglein, and this is your next episode of Serving Your Success. With me today is Andrew Matthews, who was with us in our last episode, and back again, of course, is Caitlin.
Hi, everybody.
What we're going to talk about today happens to be a continuation of the millennial conversation, how things are changing and how people like myself will be helping the next generation and learning from the next generation in order to create and keep our livelihoods vibrant. Part of the conversation that's come up is, where will the jobs come from? So a lot of what we'll talk about today is emerging between technologies and real advances that are happening globally, and where and how will that impact all of our jobs. So I want to set it up a little bit. There are a ton of different books on the market, but this was one of the most recent that crossed my desk. And of course it came from Barrett Kohler, one of my most favorite publishers. So The Driver in the Driverless Car is one that was, it had two great benefits to it. One, it was written by a Stanford professor, so he knows his stuff. Two, the content on the first two chapters is downloadable for free. So that's always a lovely thing, and there will be a link at the bottom for you to be able to see it. But most importantly, it was not a book about driverless cars. It was about the psychology behind what it will take for us to keep moving forward economically, which means the jobs that we create and how we live our lives, just because of accepting a technology like driverless cars. I happen to have been waiting for driverless cars for the last 10 years, and I have my own reasons behind that. But I also accept the reason I can be so willing to conceptualize how cool it's going to be when there are driverless cars for the next 30 years of my life. It's because I haven't been in one yet.
Yeah.
It was really easy for me to say, but the psychology behind trusting at a level that I will allow this 2,000 or 3,000 pound machine to just take me wherever I want to go speaks volumes to the level of trust that we need to continually strive to as individuals, raising our ethical and moral standards, because we are on the brink of technologies that probably, in my mind, equate to what happened when we created the atom bomb. It's that at that moment we created the capacity to truly destroy ourselves simultaneously.
Right.
Okay? Once that was created, that was the shift. So here we are again with everything from our medical care to the cars that we're driving, to the fact that we don't really know where our jobs will be.
Right. Absolutely.
FYI. That we have to have a lot of trust. And the fact that today we're like, as a population, the 380 million Americans are really minuscule compared to the up and coming, we're at 7 billion, we're going to be at 8 pretty soon. So how do we create significance and continue to have significance? So all of those types of things. Andrew, I want to start with you, because last week you told us that your love in this moment and what you are creating in the world is being a storyteller.
Yes.
And you are using video and the ability to get the stories, I assume, of people, companies, everything of whoever has a story to tell in the marketplace.
Absolutely. I think that I like this individual. His name is Casey Neistat. Okay. He's a vlogger out of New York, and he tells stories in a very unconventional way that millions of people watch on a daily basis. It's not a professional production. He has a camera and a stabilizer to hold the camera, and he just goes around New York on a skateboard and captures stories and ideas. He also happens to travel a lot, so he's all over the world. And so when he's traveling all over the world, he's able to capture these stories that normally someone would think, man, I need a video production team to do this.
Right.
Capital intensive, I need sponsors, I need this, when in reality you just need a camera and the ability to want to tell this story. So when he travels around the world, he creates awareness in my mind of what's going on, the way that I would like to consume. So I feel in today's world we need more of that. We need to be able to consume shorter stories in more volume, in more quality, less noise, and more of what we like to hear about, I feel.
Okay, so now every one of my years is going to come up to the top. How do you make money? Like, who's making
Sure.
money? Why?
Right.
Like, it's lovely that this young man is doing this. Godspeed to him.
Yeah, that's a good question.
And
So he, for example, one way that he monetizes his YouTube audience is that
Okay.
every million views, they pay you an average $2,000.
right.
And he's posting
month?
daily. This is per view.
Per view.
view.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah.
So he's posting daily and getting 2 to 3 million views.
Okay.
So just right there,
Wow.
it's a 6K a day business, if you will, right? Gross.
Oh, you said a day? You get
Because he's posting a day. So if he
Okay.
posts one video a day and each video gets, let's say, 3 million views at 2K. then
every
it's-
24-hour period.
Yes.
Phew.
Oh, okay.
That's a nice
one,
paycheck.
That's one way. Another way is
Tell me
making
who his
partnership.
demographic is. Obviously, you're
Millennials.
Millennials.
Right.
Yeah, 13
Okay.
and up, I would say.
Okay, so so there is a market.
Yeah.
It's the next market
Right.
of how do young people consume.
Correct, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's fair.
Yeah, and CNN happened to acquire him. They did a acqui-hire
wow.
of
Okay.
his ability to create content for a millennial audience that CNN so desperately
Right.
needs to talk to.
Correct.
Right. Absolutely.
So when you're thinking of your business,
Mhm.
obviously, well, you could be replicating it, but what would it look like for you
yeah.
to blow your business out, knowing that the techniques, and what does it look like?
To me, it looks like creating awareness towards the things I'm passionate about. When I create awareness to the right amount of people, opportunities arise, and through those opportunities, I get to do what I want to do really by financing it. Yeah.
Right. Well, and I will tell you what this author brings out, and you can help me. Is it Vivek?
Vivek, maybe?
Vivek? Oh, Wadhwa?
Yeah.
That's a tough one, right?
We're going with it.
Whatever. What he brings out, though, is the moral implications of everything we're doing.
Okay.
And when you say that, it has to inspire you, and that when those things happen, the next part, that fits the philosophy I've worked in forever and ever, where you have focused energy, and that focused energy actually becomes combustible, but in a beautiful way.
Very well described.
Okay? And so what I'm saying, and I have been saying since I came through business, that because I came from the school that we were in the midst of the ethical dilemmas in the 80s and 90s when junk bonds came up, and there was a ton
Right.
of stuff.
There was a lot
that
going on.
There was a lot going on that shifted and made it really obvious that business needed to up its ethical game. Okay? Now, in this book, Driver in the Driverless Car, it's really that, it's like when you realize what is possible and the fact that we have no clue as to what is possible, raising the ethical way we engage. So I know you. I know you're bringing that game to the party. What happens when that same technique is used and the material that's being consumed is not so good?
You have to innovate.
Okay.
You cannot become complacent. You always have to change the way you're doing things. You have to think about how to put yourself out of business
Okay.
so that you put yourself out of business.
Okay.
Yeah, so always be ahead of the game is my number one thought. But I'm sure you could elaborate more, and I probably could give you more detail.
Yeah, well, actually, I want to switch it a little bit. And Kate, I'm going to bring you in on this in a moment. But
Okay.
there, part of Andrew was part of a conversation where the whole deal around Bitcoin and the impact of
Oh, yeah.
alternative financing.
Winklevoss capital.
I may be angry at our banks, trust me. However, I still am not willing to put my money anywhere else, and there's a whole bunch of us, but again, only in the developed world, only within a certain age group. You would most likely be a lot more accustomed. So then I come across my favorite magazine, and as you can see, my favorite magazine, I get Bloomberg Business
Oh,
Week.
okay.
And they write nice short things, and they're accurate. Minor qualifications for
Right.
me. Accuracy, short. So in Kenya, which is an African nation, Kenya is offering the world's first bond sold via mobile devices.
Ooh.
With denominations as low as 3,000 shillings, which is $29, the debt is meant to be easy to buy and sell. I don't have a peer group social circle that would actually be buying into that. But would you?
I think so. I think my peer group would. Absolutely. I mean, assuming that this was vetted, like there was more of like an in-depth process in which you could elaborate, like, and see the details of like, where's the security, where's the credibility behind, like, you know, these bonds. But I think so. I mean, my debit card's on my phone for Apple Pay. You know,
Right.
it's like, it's that gateway. It's like, well, if I'm comfortable with this, then I'm going to be comfortable with maybe a little bit more. And soon it could just sort of be this viral concept of.
So it doesn't bother you that when we had standards, supposedly, in this country,
Right.
financial standards of how banks operated, how markets operated, yada, yada, they really played an enormous amount of games to take that down. These systems don't have those regulations at all, and that does
True.
not.
So it does have regulation in the sense that everything is recorded and can be traced, but not to an individual, just to the
Right,
transaction.
so that's the blockchain.
That is the
aspect.
blockchain ledger concept.
So you're now, and the reason I brought that up at the point that I did, so you create this business, and you're now online, and you're now getting your income from YouTube advertising. Would you direct your income into?
Bitcoin, Ethereum,
Yeah.
Ripple, all of these coins that are being created in the crypto world, absolutely.
Right.
Right.
You would.
Absolutely.
Killing me. Just saying, you're killing me. But then there is the implications, the real life implications of what does that mean for all the 40 and 50 and 60-year-olds who are right now working for corporations who have money in IRAs. Like, what does this all mean? And I think very playfully, you know, there's no need to stress about it because it's happening. It's like stressing about something. This is not make-believe.
Can't stop it now.
This is what's going on. I really want to have this conversation from the standpoint of knowing how much we are expanding the level of possibility. What does it look like for each of us and the different things that we're doing? Okay, so now, Kate, I know that you are looking to go to grad school in business.
Yes.
Okay. Do you think they're going to have, like, blockchain and
Absolutely.
it will all be a part of what you're studying?
Yes, absolutely. The program I was looking into and interviewing with this last week had specifically under their marketing emphasis, it was global e-commerce. Like there are entire programs being dedicated to, hey, look, this is where the world's shifting. We want to be a part of that. We want to be educating our students on, you know, how do we start these companies, or how are we executives at these companies, and, you know, propel everybody forward. But I think that is absolutely something I'm interested in, because I think that's where the market's headed, and that's where you're going to be making money.
Yeah, because the second part of one of the things that Vodafone will become India's top mobile operator once it completes a $23 billion merger, which seems like almost nothing for Idea Cellular.
Right.
The country's number 3 cellular company being added into Vodafone. So together, those two companies in India will have 400 million customers in India alone. So one company in India surpasses the entire population of the United States.
That's powerful.
Exactly, and it's the same medium that will be doing all of those financial transactions and all other transactions. So knowing all of this, knowing that our life is being directed towards this little thing we carry around with us all the time, how do you feel safe?
That is an excellent question. I think there is, you do give up a sense of that safety, because you are, you know, being exposed. I mean, I've seen it in friends in my peer group up in the Bay Area. You know, there's computer engineers. I've seen the power of hacking for both good and for bad. And it is, you know, it's incredible what it can do when it's used for good, but it's also terrifying when it's used for bad. And so there is, again, this is where this ethical implication comes in, because absolutely these standards need to be, you know, upped, and then just absolutely pushed forward. Like, we just have to do something about it, because I mean, I don't necessarily know.
But what? Like,
how do you solve for that?
400 million people. Like, it's not about the U.S. government creating regulations, because I think that leaves the other 6 billion people laughing their butts off. Like, oh, good, you create those little regulations. You know, what does it do to us to have these systems?
So, just to go back a little bit on the cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency is a medium that is built to make transactions, the transfer of wealth, way more efficient, less risk, more security.
Right.
So in that sense, we're trying to improve a system that is archaic, that is now a part of a technological age, and so it's natural that we have to make that change. We have to make that shift so that we have this foundation that we can transfer wealth faster and more securely than ever.
Okay, so convince me on that. So you actually feel that the newer technologies are safer?
Yes, absolutely. And not completely. There are problems. For example, there was the Mt. Gox issue where several Bitcoin just disappeared. Absolutely disappeared. And
I remember reading that article.
That's a huge issue, you know.
Right.
And so you had savings being lost, retirements being lost. I mean, that wasn't cool, and it was a dent into the whole cryptocurrency world.
Right. That was about 2 years ago?
Yes, I don't recall exactly the date.
Yeah, about 2 years ago.
And so there's this thing called Crypto 2.0. So imagine blockchain and the Bitcoin being the 1.0 version. Crypto 2.0 would have Ethereum, which is way more secure than the blockchain than Bitcoin itself. So we're improving from our mistakes, from our failures, so that in the future we have an even more secure system. So we're improving. Think about the internet in the beginning in 1996 and 1997. You know,
gosh.
Look at it today.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so the same thing happens in the blockchain world. And like we're improving our current systems. So,
Okay. So now I am a warlord. Now I am a drug cartel. When I attempt to put money in regulated systems around the world, supposedly, you can, you know, they're supposed to be flagged. And we know a lot gets through. We know that that's a bunch of, but it's at least it's some. You know, my husband had for his entire working life an A license in gambling in Nevada, which meant any check I wrote over $2,500 had to be accounted for. So we lived under regulations. There was I lived in a situation where regulators from all the different markets that my husband got a license in could come to my home and did, could ask me to open up a safe and did, would without notice take me to my banks to look in my safety deposit boxes. So I may have found it an annoyance, but there was a benefit I was getting from that, so I was only going to be so annoyed. Only going to be so annoyed.
You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours.
No, it was the price of what I was willing to give up.
Okay, fair enough. So that was for you.
I gave up an enormous amount of personal security or privacy because of a license he held in the United States in industries and states regulated. And there was one which did not go down well for me, but I still went along with it, in New Jersey, which to my recollection was the first market in the United States to come after Nevada as far as, so they were hyper regulated. I actually signed a form signing away my constitutional rights.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Really?
Oh yes. And one wife would not do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's terrifying.
The chief financial officer's wife would not do it. And my attitude was I wasn't hiding anything, and I've always kind of taken that. You can go look in my safety deposit box. It really doesn't matter. If you want to see my daughter's birth certificate, go for it.
Right. No, yeah.
You know, that's what I keep in those boxes. So what was interesting was I did know that there was somebody watching. Now with the encrypted and, you know, you earn income and you're putting them in these systems, what's to stop, and this is where the good bad ethical development comes from, this becomes the greatest system for all those who don't want to do good to put their money. How does that play out?
I wish I were a drug lord to figure that out. But like you were mentioning earlier, these guys still use traditional banking systems to get by
Yeah.
through bribes or connections or whatever you have. And it's going to come into the crypto world, of course, and it already is happening. But we're going to have to come together and find a way to figure that out. I haven't seen any solutions yet.
Right.
So I wouldn't know. But going to the privacy sense, you said you felt transparent, right? So you had nothing to hide. And so that's how I feel today. In this world, I feel like super transparent. Nothing to hide. You
Okay.
want to hack me? Go right ahead.
Oh, really?
Absolutely.
No, don't hack me.
Yeah.
No.
People hack people to like sell secrets, photography, or bank account information, or this
Right.
and that. In that sense, hacking. That's what I think about. Like someone invading my private life and trying to shed light on something that I don't care.
Yeah, no, I couldn't
Not
care
having it,
less.
yeah.
Right. No, that part. But I do care about everything I do transactionally around
Right.
any type
Yeah.
of, security,
That's fair.
bank accounts.
Yeah.
stock
It's your
accounts. I mean,
livelihood.
well, and it's not only that. I mean, it is the infrastructure that holds up the globe at this moment. Like, these new systems are coming up, but the bulk of money is not anywhere near being housed there.
This just brings to mind just like a minor example, because I went to college in the Bay Area. A lot of my peer group went on to work for large social networking sites, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, all of these sort of social media entities. And I have one friend who, she works for Facebook. She's in the recruiting department. And she lives in the East Bay and is probably an hour and a half, 2 hours away from the headquarters. And so I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, man, how does she get over there? Like, that's a lot of traffic. It's a lot of money, time, everything. Like, couldn't you find a job closer? And she goes, well, here's the deal, Caitlin. What Facebook does is they have a working van that comes across. It's a commuter van. It has Wi-Fi. It's got food. It's got drink. It's got everything. It picks her up like it's the city over from her. And so at 7:30 in the morning, she gets in the car, starts immediately working, and she's working the whole time they're going across
love
the
it.
bridge.
Love it.
Yeah, and there is an article about that because I guess they got bombed, or not bombed, but they were harassed. Those buses were harassed
I'm
at some
sure.
point in the last few months. Yeah, it was,
That geopolitically, I imagine
Yeah.
that would
it was a
natural
little
up
bit of a-
there. I mean, everybody sort of goes through that. It's like
Yeah,
your
I forget
initiation
which-
into the Bay Area. So somebody's
Yeah.
always, reminding you of their cause.
That's right. Have cause, we'll be Bay Area.
Amen. And so, but I'm sitting here thinking, going, here they solved for that entire crisis. Like, how do we get people into our company? How do we make it easier for them? How do we make it more efficient? And so it's like those innovations are happening. So I imagine this is going to easily transition to something like online currency.
Yeah, and that is one of the things that I took away from our conversations last week. There is a willingness to accept rapid change, and part of that is just being young.
Right.
And I do wonder what will the next phase be, only because they're behaviorally a good portion of the population likes steadiness. And
Right.
I know you all don't have one type of behavior, and yet you're willing to be more willing to accept destabilizing things going on. So when I think about it, I'm saying to myself, does that add the level of stress? Because this is one thing that I notice about the little coggle that I hang out with. You may all appear to be really relaxed, but you're freaking worried about
Do I?
everything. Yeah, not you.
We were stressed out of our minds.
Really?
You people are really stressed out. And
It is
it's,
well contained.
it is well contained. I think that has something to do with some of the other things you do. But what ends up happening is that there is this level of what's going to happen next and needing to know what's going to happen next and how it's going to impact what you're doing at a much more heightened level. Like, stability does have certain benefits. And how much destabilization can the human psyche tolerate?
I mean, I think for millennials, I think we're used to destabilization. When you
Yeah.
think about when we were growing up, We had 9/11, and I'm speaking mainly to American millennials. We had 9/11. Suddenly, were wars in the Middle East. We had to go through, like, the main part of us becoming young adults was an economic recession.
Right.
Like, and then the internet came in, and it completely destabilized the way we communicated, the way we made friends. My mom actually said this to me the other day. I was like, oh yeah, like, this girlfriend reached out to me because we had a mutual friend and she wants to hang out. And she goes, wow, it's so easy for you guys to make friends now. Yeah. And I thought, oh my God, it really did entirely change the way we communicated. So it's like this repeated destabilization. So it's sort of become a part of our culture.
But you know, I'll go back to the trust thing again. I don't think it's that easy to make friends. I think the pattern of developing trust, it's easy to make a connection.
Right.
Like when I wanted to look up what was the population of when I was born in 1959 in the United States, which by the way was 165 million people versus the 380
that we now have.
Now have.
Right.
And I was very interested in the global populations, which were just under 3 billion when I was born. They are approaching, well, they are at 7 billion and approaching very quickly 8 billion. That gives almost everything we knew at that moment in time. I will also tell you that when my husband was born in 1934, the average age of a male, life expectancy of a male, was 59.3 years.
Oh my heavens.
He's in his 8th decade and going to be going strong. That's so common.
Right.
And so just how long life will be and how many of these changes that we'll be taking continually brings me back to, how do you reduce the stresses? How do you build trust that's actually authentic versus just these little connections like, I like you. No, I don't like you. No likes.
Takes time.
Yeah. And what it means about the businesses, like how you will create livelihoods in this environment.
Right.
So what I want you to do is tell me, in the next 5 years, when everything goes absolutely the way you want it to go, what's it look like?
I am using my phone for everything. Maybe I have not even a phone, it could be a goggle, or there's a sensor on me, something like that, that just enables me to do things a lot more easier than it is today. I feel like computers are archaic. Like looking at a screen, we should just see an augmented reality of something populating in front of me, like an engine of a vehicle. And I could dissect something virtual with my hands. So I believe we're going towards that route. I think we're there already.
Yeah, we're there. Yeah.
But 5 years from now, it's going to be everywhere. Like jeans are going to tell you, hey, bro, you can't buy this burger today because you're, 5 pounds overweight.
Oh, now I need my jeans
So
to be talking to me.
your debit card is going to
I
be
don't
declined.
want those jeans. No, I think
Everything
it
is
could
gonna be
probably
smart.
help the
I'm serious.
obesity
Yeah.
problem, but I mean, not for me. That would not be an
I
effective.
still haven't gotten used to my car talking to me from time to time because I talk back.
Yeah, we have the Amazon Alexa in our office, and sometimes it kind of freaks me out that I'll be talking to somebody on the phone named Alexa or something,
yes.
and then all of a sudden she's like, "Hello, Caitlin." I'm like, whoa, okay, and it's just. I feel like I'm pretty integrated into the technological world, but it's still those minor details where I'm like, oh, you really are here to do anything and everything. And then I got an email the other day from Amazon saying they had integrated a pet feature into it, into where if your pet barked a certain amount of times that Alexa could help them too.
Oh,
and I just
good.
thought,
Phenomenal.
Interesting. Somebody paid their rent because they came up with that idea, and I was like,
Now
Godspeed.
That is. So think about it. Think about when, over the next 5 years, what you hope to create is your livelihood.
For me, I think that, my interests are in social media and digital marketing. So I think for me, my future looks pretty bright because that's not going away by any means. And I think for me, that's probably, I'd like to know a little bit more, probably get some more experience in digital marketing, but I would like to own my own firm and watch, all of the platforms interconnect. I would love to be a part of that and, be an innovator in what comes next.
Yeah.
for social media. And I mean, translating that into not just like, communication for like social pleasure, but for, medical technology and whatnot.
Right. There's great chapters on medical, which, is of great interest to me for a host of reasons, most of which I'm not patient about having appointments and
Right.
on the rare occasions that you need information. Since I remembered, since having our daughter 30 some odd years
Right.
ago, it was like, I really could write that script for the antibiotic myself
Right.
when the ear gets
Let's
infected.
go.
Do
Yeah.
I really have to go through this scenario? And I'm looking forward to that particular technology. But then it makes me think of all of the men and women who spent 8 and 12 years getting
Right.
advanced degrees. There is still an art that the human brain brings,
Yes.
and a heart that the human brain brings to all interaction.
Absolutely.
And in addition to the ethics and trust issue, there is that, where do we turn out? Who do we become if we put so much distance
Right.
and give machines or technology that place in our sphere? So that's where I kind of want to leave it, with just the question. This is not about, oh my gosh, you're going to stop this. No, 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 no. There is so much you do not know that's happening, that's impacting your life at this moment, that what I would tell you to do is to use your greatest strengths to, in fact, open your mind and ask questions, instead of going to a no place when you start to hear about these technologies, or when you enter into a conversation with people who are younger than you and they want to work and do things differently. It's ask the question, why? What is that like? What will it mean? And the most important part of all is to make sure that you ask the question, what are the ethical implications for you and your community if you do this? And that's what I want to leave you with today. Ask questions. It's a beautiful place to live. Everything's going to be okay. It has in the past and it will in the future. It just never looks pretty when we're in the middle of it. So thank you, and I look forward to us being together again.
Absolutely.
Thank
Thank you.
you.